co-screenwriter Ryan Andrews and some of his cast and crew from the film. Introduce yourselves.
He already introduced me, Ryan M. Andrews, director and co-writer.
Laura Murat, executive producer and re-recording engineer.
Don't be so modest. I'm Laura Mercosi. I played Dawn Somerville.
Hi, I'm Kaylee LeGrand. I played Lizzie Miller.
Hi, I'm Marcus Huxius, and I played Richard.
Hi, I'm Sydney Condris. I played Heather Amato.
I'm Chris Call, and I was the editor and story writer and Roy Barrett's stunt double.
Hi, I'm Daisy McLean, and I was the editor.
Mitch Lackey, I was the co-writer. Pino Helene, I was the executive producer.
All right, so I guess I'll always start off with the usual customary question to the director and both screenwriters. Tell me about the genesis of this film, the story.
All right, first before I do that though, I'm going to say Tiana Nori, Tristan Risk, and Jessica Cameron, who are all on the West Coast, obviously couldn't be here, but they all send their love. That was great having Tristan on the video there before the film started, so they couldn't be here, but you know, they're here in spirit. And as for the genesis of the story, it began when Chris Call down there and myself were driving to Oklahoma, 20-hour drive, 4 a.m. You know, it's just kind of like coming up with ideas of stories and just being at a rest area, like at a rest stop, and you know, he took off to go piss in the field or something, and you know, I'm sitting there realizing he's got the keys. If he doesn't come back, I'm screwed. And that kind of just, you know, sparked in my head, that's a story right there. The rest of the drive, we started hammering out ideas back and forth. So then I put together this script, brought it to Alan and Pino, and they introduced me to Mitch Lackey, and then we worked many months of fist fights and chair throwing to, oh, let's do this.
That's some scars.
Yeah, you still got scars, I know. But eventually we came together with what we have now.
Excellent, excellent. And I just remembered as well, I should have before I started, present you again with the filmmaker pen here. Again, you know, I don't know if that's the first or not. Can we retroactively give you another one for sick? But anyways, here you go. Wear it proudly. Someone else you mentioned, you know, some people are in other places. Another person whose work deserves to be celebrated is Michael Davidson, the cinematographer. I wanted to ask you because you know, in films like this, you know, kind of like the kind of lost out in the rural areas kind of films, you know, the big influences of film like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and then Hills Have Eyes and stuff like, you know, the next generation would be something like the Rob Zombie films, and usually they take place in daytime than usual in nighttime, and often some of those films, you know, have kind of like a very bright kind of washed out look, and this is a very, you know, great rich cinematography. I mean, if he was here, I would ask him, you know, kind of the decision, but since you're the director, I'll ask you.
Yeah, right now Michael Davidson's up in Sudbury, I think. He's up shooting another film right now, or else he would be here. I texted with him earlier about the fact that he's really excited about this screening, you know, hometown screening and everything. When we first brought Michael on board, and he had shot my previous film, so I was champion for him to be my cinematographer here. Myself, Michael, Alan, and Pino sat down and started referencing other films we liked the look of and things of that nature, what we wanted to do with this. But multiple, you know, beers and coffees with Michael between him and I, we were talking about the look I really wanted to capture, which was having an ensemble cast where we had so many people, and both he and I love a more minimalist style of shooting. We don't want to have something that's got 80,000 edits in it. We want to have something where, you know, we just kind of like set up the camera and let the actors create the scene. So with that in mind, we're thinking, well, we had to shoot anamorphic because then we could have the 2:3:9 ratio, and it would allow for an ensemble cast of 5 lead girls, 4 villains, and Sydney to tell this story, right? So we're shooting on red, so we shot red epic, use the anamorphic lenses, and the great thing about working with Michael is because he is as much a horror nut as I am, that I could like reference an homage, like, oh, remember in Texas Chainsaw, this bit, and he would just know. So we would be able to like plan out like shot lists where it's like, yeah, I want to do this, I want it to look like this, kind of want it to feel like this, but not rip that off kind of thing. And then, yeah, we just really collaborate a lot on that with Alan and Pino to get the look we had.
Terrific. All right. And speaking of going from the cinematography to the, as you mentioned, the ensemble cast, some were here tonight. Again, one thing that always impressed me, first of all, seeing how many people I'd heard of in the film and had seen in other films that were terrific, and gathered in this, doing a terrific ensemble job as a group. Tell me next about how you guys put together this great cast. How you put together this great cast?
Well, like originally with people like Jessica Cameron and Rye Barrett and Kaylee LeGrand, I went, like I'm friends with all of them, so I went to them in advance and went, I want you to be in this movie. Like, you don't actually have an option here, you're in this fucking movie. And, they luckily said yes. So they all came out, and then when I met with Alan Pino about it, I was like, yeah, so I already have this person and this person, and, like with Kaylee and everything, it's like, they trust me, but they also wanted to see for themselves, so Kaylee came out and, auditioned for them as well, but she already had my backing vote, so it's like, obviously she's gonna be in it. But we never tried to stack the deck. Like, I know we have like this long list of like people that have been in a lot of things in the film, and it just ended up working out that way. Like with Elma, she came out to the audition, we thought she was great. We cast her in the film, and then, like a couple months later, she stars in Chad Archibald's film, Bite. And, for the past few months, that's been blowing up the festival circuit, and then it's like, oh yeah, we got her too. It's not like we planned it that way, and, just everybody in the film, I wasn't concerned about their credentials or what other films they had done. I just wanted to pair people up that looked right. And Rye Barrett and Elma Begvik together looked like a menacing German Nazi couple. So, they were perfect for it. And same with Bobby Phillips, like getting her involved. It was like kind of right place, right time. She, done lots of stuff in the 90s, Showgirls and Wes Craven's Carnival of Souls. She was in the first female Crow, things like that. And then she left the industry for like 10 years, and then Doug Jones actually convinced her to get back into it. And we just happened to be in the right place at the right time, where it's like, hey, we're making a movie, you want to be in it? And, she loved the script and loved us, so this was like her first feature back from a 10-year hiatus from Hollywood.
Excellent. And so let me ask the cast then, what was it like when you were first invited onto this film, and as well, once you took a look at the script, what you thought, and what was the experience like actually working on the film? So ask you first.
Sure. My story is a little bit different from like Kaylee's because she was cast earlier. I kind of came on 2 or 3 weeks before we started shooting, and we were just talking about this today. In my first meeting with Ryan, he actually told me I wasn't his first choice. And I was like, okay, cool. But it was actually, I really appreciated his honesty, because that meant that I
was really drunk.
It was a good challenge for me to prove to him that I was a good choice. And so I know that Kaylee, I think that you could probably speak to being involved with it a little bit longer, I think from sort of the beginning of things, right?
Yeah, Ryan and I have been friends for a little while, and I first heard of the offering from Ryan about this role when it was still in script format, and we went through a lot of pre-production together as far as putting together stills for pitch packages, and I saw a lot of rotating cast go through even with the initial stages. I did get screen tested when I had the knowledge of Alan and Pino brought on as producers as well, so it was interesting. I've never actually gone through the process of being offered a role and then put up against other people. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to know how many other people were reading for my role, but the way that it was presented to me initially was that, oh, Kaylee, this is basically a super neurotic writer of a film, always highly caffeinated, a little bit of a weirdo. not at all like me. So what was cool is that when I got to sit down and chat with Ryan about this specific role over beers, he just said, listen, this is what I see about you that's interesting. It's a specific facet of yourself that you get to heighten and play. So I was lucky that I was able to play myself better than others who were up against me for the role, and I ended up winning it and getting to play her in the film. She was super fun. I had a little bit of advantage. I've had 21 years learning myself. Fine, I'm older. Anyway.
Impossible to follow that. Yeah, mine's a lot more boring. I did the audition thing, met this great crew here. They seemed to kind of like me. They were like, hey, you got dimples, you want to kill some people? I was like, hell yeah, man. Let's fire that off right now. And that's history. That's how it went down.
Yeah, sort of similar. I went to the audition. I originally auditioned for Tristan's character. And then they had me read for Heather, and I knew immediately it was the best character in the film, and I wanted that one. And that one was the one I wanted. And that's all I hoped for. So I got it. So, you know, yeah, and then working on the film, because she was such a, she was so alone, and she had been held captive and by herself for a long time. I really kept myself away from most of the cast, to be honest, and I really went through my research by myself. And to connect, yeah, really, this is what it was like on set. Nobody wanted to be around me. I looked gross, you know, it was awful. But yeah, and to connect with being held captive and tortured and raped, I did a lot of research with animal cruelty and studied a lot of videos, because I connected deeply with that, and that's how I went through my process. And then I just went for the best I could as soon as we started shooting. So yeah, that's how it worked out for me.
There are no more casts.
That's it for cast.
Actually, one thing I want to add with Laura is what ended up happening is the person that we had cast for the role, we had to recast, and this was like 2 to 3 weeks before actually going to camera. And for me, I don't believe in, like, some directors manipulate their actors, like, oh, I'm going to talk to you this way and talk down to you and make you feel good and get you to do what I want you to do. But for me, I just believe in honesty. And so that's why I was honest with Laura about, yeah, you weren't, you know, my first choice. And with me, Alan Pino, again, there's probably chairs thrown with our, well, who's going to play this role? We've only got 3 weeks to cast it. And I think it's a testament to how strong Laura is as an actor, that she came in where everybody else had months to, even like with Ryan Barrett, he had years to rehearse his role. And Laura came in with 2 weeks, and she fit right in. It was like it was meant to be, that she was perfect for that role.
Excellent, excellent. All right, let's throw it out to the crowd. If you have questions, put your hand up, and we'll hear them.
Want a drink?
Yes?
Tell me about the location is incredible, and it combines with the cinematography. You know, just like it's just an ordinary landscape, ordinary place where these horrible things happen. It just kind of tends to heighten the horror.
Yeah, it certainly does. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for everything we were doing with our, like, we had 4 main locations. The farmhouse was in Port Perry, Ontario, which is, you know, just under an hour outside of here. The theater was in Oakville. The rest stop was in Mississauga, like at a splash pad water park, at a yacht or something, right? And we just had to make it look creepy and like desolate. And then the film within the film at the beginning was shot at the old Rue Morgue factory. But specifically with the farmhouse, you know, I wanted to be kind of like a painting. And especially, I think it lended a lot to the cinematography to have it look that way. And we mainly shot the entire film on the 40mm lens. It was actually inspired very minimalistic by, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name right now, but he was a cinematographer for American Gangster. But he also did a film called, he was a cinematographer for a film called Last Days, which was a story about Kurt Cobain before he shot himself. And with that film, he shot the entire film on one lens. and then using the 75 for close-ups. And we really like that minimalist style and feel, so we kind of modeled Save Yourself after that, where we shot the entire thing on the 40mm lens, doing 75 for close-ups, and then there were 3 shots outside of that that we used in the film that were kind of like Kurosawa inspired when they first go up to the farmhouse, because we wanted to capture the pastoral beauty of the location, and we wanted to look inviting, we wanted to look pretty, and have the horror, you know, just kind of be the disturbingness of you never know what goes on behind closed doors. I grew up watching like every horror film. I love horror, but it's like, you know, the idea of the lightning cracking and, you know, the house, you know, in the darkness beyond the woods, you know, it's like, it's too cliche. It's been done before. I'd rather create a film where, you know, all the fun stuff is happening at night, and then all the actual horror takes place during the day, which is what we did with this film, where we wanted that to capture. And, you know, Pino, both Pino and I have ties to Port Perry. So, you know, when Pino first mentioned there's a house out there, I was immediately on top of that, because I love that area, right? Let's go shoot there. And it was just like a beautiful location. I was really happy with all the locations we got. It wasn't like we had to settle for something.
Okay, cool. Another question? Anybody? Is there a hand? Yes.
You play a lot around with the idea of who the final girl is going to be. Like, I feel like you set one up and then you kill her, and then you set up another one and then you kill her. Was this on purpose, or it's really awesome?
I was hoping you were going to stump me like last night with Andrew.
Well, I was going to ask you how you got in the mood of the disgruntled employee role.
One of the things that Chris and I first talked about when we were coming up with the film is, with a lot of horror films, you know, you watch any of the Friday the 13th, you know, Alice is, you know, she's the virgin, she's the good girl, she's the one who's gonna live, she's the final girl, you know the slut's gonna die, you know the bitch is gonna die. And I wanted to include that in the film. I didn't want to, like, play up that aspect, because then it would be too humorous, and it was kind of a fine line where we wanted it to be tongue-in-cheek, but we didn't want it to be, like, too funny, because there's a lot of serious stuff, you know, with the Nazis and everything that goes on in it. But one of the things I wanted to have fun with is the fact that instead of, when the movie starts, you know what girl's gonna live, you know what girl's gonna die, it's kind of like, no, I'm just giving you a bunch of girls, and you're actually gonna find that you like all of them, and you're cheering for all of them at different times. You know, you might think at the beginning that Kaylee's gonna, like, Kaylee might be the smart one. Like, Kaylee's the one who's sitting there saying,
I'm smart, right? I'm so smart.
of course you are, yes. But Kaylee's the one who's sitting there saying, no, I've never written a script like this, don't go in the house. You know, she's the one who is smart enough to live, so she's got to be the first to die. Because, you're like, whatever you expect to have happen, that's the exact reason why I don't want that to have happen. You know, and then with Tiana played the quote-unquote slut character, right? Like, you know, clearly made that visible in the first couple of scenes you see her in. And with that, it's like, you know, right off the bat, you're like, okay, yeah, she's a slut, she's gonna die, you're not gonna care, you're gonna write her off. But then as the film's going along, you find yourself kind of, you know, cheering for her. I mean, hopefully you guys were, like, rooting for her, like, oh yeah, I want her to go save the day kind of thing. And as soon as I made you like the slut, I killed her off, just to make sure that, you know, you didn't see that coming. And again, I mean, maybe you saw it coming, I don't know, but hopefully we did right with that. I remember Pino telling me he showed the script to somebody after Mitch and I went bananas on it for a long time, and the woman who provided these script notes, she was like, yeah, I didn't like this character at first, but then I liked her, and then you killed her. And I was like, exactly, that's what I wanted to do.
All right. Got time for about 2 more questions.
Ask them stuff.
Yeah, I got any questions? I'll take one then, since no one's gonna ask a question. Again, it's also interesting, besides the element of the Nazis in the woods and all that, and the films we were talking about before, there's also the fact that your main group is 5 women, and they're filmmakers, and so, there's clearly some ideas in the film there, you know, it's a reason that you made them all be women and be filmmakers, so, you know, maybe talk about some of the ideas and themes that are prevalent, and also the actresses can maybe want to chime in as well, since they're actresses as well in real life.
Well, the one thing I'll say about before I pass the mic over is, And I kind of realized this a little while ago doing an interview in New York, where we were talking about kind of the same thing. I grew up watching horror films in the 80s. You know, I was raised on Friday the 13th, Sleepaway Camp, Driller Killer, all the video nasties, all that stuff. And the one thing that I think I subconsciously took from all that was the fact that the girl is the one who destroys the monster. If you're the boyfriend in the film, like if you're Johnny Depp in Nightmare on Elm Street, you're getting pulled into the bed and you're gonna die. The girl is the only one who can stop the monster. So in a horror film, if I'm gonna write a horror film, there's no way a guy's gonna save the day. The boyfriend, if he's lucky, might distract him for a while. The girl is the only one, like the female, the woman, the one who like gives life. She's the only one that can actually destroy the monster. So for me, as a horror filmmaker, that's how I always want to play it. The fact that the women are the ones that are strong enough to actually defeat them. And I'll let you expand.
Yeah, sure. I think, I think that there is a stereotype or maybe a misconception in horror film that women are always victims. But I think I'm not a huge horror fan. I think that probably more people here are larger horror fans than I am. I'm looking at my friend Craig. But I can reference a film that he introduced me to, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, where the woman, she's very strong and she wins in the end. And I think that that is something that Ryan was looking to explore in our film. And I think that that's something that I really appreciate about this script, that we are women filmmakers. And I think that it's, it's very topical right now, that women behind the camera are something that needs to be supported. So I like the fact that this film shows you women who are making films, and it's not like, oh my God, these women are making films, how amazing! It's just a fact. And I think that women do it. Like, Daisy is one of our co-editors, and she's a woman. So we're equal. We can do it.
Whoa!
100%.
Does anyone else want to say anything about that?
Yeah, actually, especially because, my character's a writer, I'm a writer, and when it comes to the writing world, which is a very different world for me as far as acting goes. I really get to play in the heads of so many different characters, obviously, and in the acting world, we do, as women, tend to get pigeonholed into certain realms and certain, we have paths that we take in films or television that you know right away, and it seems pretty predictable. And so I was really excited, especially because it was one of the first points that Ryan brought up when we first started talking about the film, is that he was so passionate about creating what he could as far as his momentum went towards creating strong female archetypes, strong female stories. And obviously that's one of my goals. Speaking so passionate about that, it's one of my goals when it comes to my writing as well. And I find that when I'm writing, I try to play between female and male genders with all of my characters, just to see if each character would be able to read in both of those genders before I play them out. So I found myself doing that when I was watching this film as well, just to see where their mindset was coming from each individual character. I love that aspect about it. I love the fact that Ryan's always behind that. Whenever I talk to him about every project that he works on, he doesn't speak about his characters in gender-defined stereotypes. I absolutely love that. I was gushing.
I'm not a woman.
Speak
As far as I know, man.
I don't know if you saw the quote, but I think it was by Reese Witherspoon, and she said that one of her most hated lines that's repeated in film by a woman is, "What happens next?" And it's just, it puts a woman in a place where they don't know what to do. And I think we can all agree 90% of the time we know what to do. And when I came across the breakdown of this film, the majority of the roles were women, and that was very inspiring to me. But to be perfectly honest, I'm really looking forward to the time when it's not even a topic of conversation, that it's just expected, and that it's just there.
Yep.
All right, told, I think we have to wrap it up to make room for midnight. Thank you, everybody. Sorry I didn't get to ask questions of everyone, so maybe we can do that tomorrow night's film screening again at 7:30. You guys already saw it. If you like it again, see it again. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock, Shia Must Burn. 4 o'clock, White Raven. 4:30, Bite. 7:30. 7 Bite. 7:30, Save Yourself. All right, go to the bar and get drunk. See you later, everybody.